I have two sort of philosophies. One, you can only make the best decision with the information you have at the time. Otherwise, you'll never make a decision. And no decision is permanent. Mm-hmm. Take a chance. Follow your passion. If it doesn't work, do something else. But give it enough time and stick with it to really try to see it through. I think everybody's looking for instant gratification. And things take a long time.
Welcome to The Rich Outdoors, where we break down the tips, tactics, and strategies of hunting's greats to not only help you become better hunters, but to motivate and inspire you between hunting adventures. For more about us, including additional resources on our guests and links to everything we cover in the interview, check out therichoutdoors.net. This episode brought to you by iSocialBoost. iSocialBoost is an Instagram growth tool that can help you grow your tribe in an organic way. iSocialBoost has been helping me grow the Backcountry Fuel Box Instagram for the last couple of months, and I have been blown away with just almost over 7,000 followers now, and they're helping me convert followers into subscribers. Whether you're a small business or just want to grow your personal following, iSocialBoost can help you get thousands of real followers that actually fit your brand. I've actually been so impressed with them that I'm having them start to grow the podcast Instagram as well and helping get exposure to the podcast for all those people that maybe don't even know it exists. Check them out. If you want to give them a try, you will not be disappointed. Head over to isocialboost.com. Use the promo code TRO and you'll get 80% off your first week. They're so sure that you're going to love it. They're basically giving it to you for free. Go check it out if you want to grow your small business or just grow your personal brand. Instagram is a great place to do it. Check it out. Today's episode brought to you by onX Maps. onX is a must-have tool for all of you serious hunters. With season just around the corner, I am constantly using my onX to e-scout and learn everything I can about my upcoming hunts. onX Maps works across all of my devices, so I can scout areas, mark locations on my desktop, and then automatically they appear on my phone when I'm in the field using my smartphone as a GPS. onX even works on your phone if you don't have service or it's in airplane mode. I just save all the maps that I am going to need and before I head into the backcountry or go out of service, and my onX app will show me right where I am and show me all of my waypoints from e-scouting and all of my marked locations. onX is available in all 50 states, and I can't speak highly enough about this system. It is truly a must-have for me, and I think anyone hunting out west. Even if you're not worried about the public-private, you're hunting deep in the wilderness, it's still an awesome tool. But if you're anywhere near private land, it is a must-have. Use the promo code TRO, and you'll get 20% off your membership. Go download it today and get familiar with the app before your hunt. Don't download it on your way to your hunt. Get familiar with this because there's so many cool tools that you can learn from it. Go to onxmaps.com. Check it out. Alrighty, welcome to the podcast, man. How we doing?
Good.
Feel a little, can we say you're moving to Bozeman yet?
Yeah, it's official. It's all good.
Oh, big move. Willie's moving to Bozeman. Man, everyone's coming to Bozeman. We were just talking about, it's crazy.
I know. It's a lot of names in the industry who have moved here in the last couple of years, and it sounds like there's several more that are going to be happening in the next year or so.
There's not going to be an elk left in this state.
I know. Everybody moving here is an elk hunter.
And a good one, too. I get a lot of crap from Montana people for talking about Montana too much. People are going to move here. They got to keep it a secret. But so far, almost everyone I've met is not. I know a couple people that are from Montana, but everyone else is a transplant as well. So
is that right?
Yeah. You were talking earlier before the podcast that you kind of feel like a transplant or a new guy or whatever. You were born and raised in Colorado, Denver area, so you kind of been there forever. So you've probably seen a lot of the transplants come in.
Oh, yeah.
And look at them differently.
Absolutely. Them coming in, and somebody who lives here said, when you move here, don't go get yourself a Montana native sticker and don't put a toolbox in your truck and try to fit in and, force it, which apparently a lot of people do. I'm like, no, it'll be low key because I've seen it in Colorado with,
yeah.
How long you been a native? Well, about 2 years. I'm like, that's not a native of Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm the same way. So my family, settled the farm that we have in late 1890s.
Wow.
So I'm pretty old blood when it comes to like Oregon. And so it's really tough to like come to Montana and like in Oregon you have a name and like that's got history and things like that. It's not a century farm, like I'm in 100 years. And so it's kind of tough to be in Montana. I just feel like a poser. I feel like a new guy so I totally get it.
God, yeah. I just talked to my wife and it's, the whole learning curve of where to go. I've hunted here like you have for, since 2009 off and on. But those are all limited area tags, and when it's general, it's like all of a sudden you're the new guy, and we've all had people asking us about where to go and everything in your home state, and you want to help somebody out to a degree. So now you're the new guy, like, I don't want your honey hole, but where can you sort of send me at least on a point on the compass?
Like, just tell me what mountain range is. It's weird because, like you said, I have spent a lot of time. There's like you have common knowledge, like Colorado, what mountain ranges are good, what's overrated, what's underrated, things like that. Just natural, inherent knowledge. And when you're a new guy, whether it's new to hunting or just new to a state, man, it is back to the drawing board. And that's one thing I've definitely learned, especially with bear hunting this spring. Like I couldn't tell you the first thing about historically where good bears come from or not. And I was just like, man, I get it now. It's tough. And no one wants to tell you anything.
No. I mean, because we said everybody's moving here and everybody's a hunter that you feel especially, you could drive 4 hours away and probably find something, but anything within probably an hour or two of Bozeman, people got their little honey hole and they don't want even one more guy in there. Yeah.
And I'll say Montana people are like exceptionally weird about their spots. Like I just found it's a different vibe when it comes to hunting spots.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I know that the Gallatin Range is here. Obviously, I know where the Bridgers are, and I've learned where the Crazies are. But when people start talking those little mountain ranges, I'm like, is that east or west or north or south? So, the learning curve's really steep right now.
Yeah, somebody will be like, such and such a river, and I'll be like, that's in Montana? I don't know.
Somebody told me Sheridan today, and I'm like, Sheridan, Wyoming? He's like, no, Sheridan, Montana. I'm like, I didn't even know there was a Sheridan, Montana. So, lots to learn.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, your show, and everything else, kind of a little bit of history.
Well, like you'd said, I was born and raised in Colorado. I was a banker, oddly enough, for about 14 years and had the corporate lifestyle. Long story short, our bank was acquired by another bank in 2006. And after about a year, even though they treated us great and everything, I was like, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I left. Always been a hunter. My dad's a wildlife biologist, was a professor at CSU, so there's the Fort Collins connection, and spent a lot of time in the woods. Never, ever thought that it might become a career. But one of my customers at the bank was Orion Multimedia, a big production company that did tons of outdoor TV. And I watched a lot of it, but they said, hey, if you, of course, I informed all my customers I was leaving, and they said, we might have a need every once in a while for a guest host or something. Are you interested? And I was like, I love to hunt, and I can't tell you no till I try it. And so for a couple of years, I did some guest hosting with them. 3 guys left and started their own production company, True Sight Media, and I'd gotten to know them from Orion. Of course, anybody heading out on their own needs projects and start something, and we got to talking, and they said, what would you be interested in your own series? And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Because doing stuff with Orion, you never dealt with sponsors. You never got involved in the storyline, editing, anything. You just went on a hunt. The videographer turned the footage over and they created whatever,
Yeah.
And so, the whole concept at the time, we're coming up on, I'll be starting to film season 8 this fall. So in the outdoors, that's, some longevity. But there weren't a whole lot of good Western shows out there at the time. Of course, since then, production quality's gotten a lot better, and I think a lot of the shows that we probably both follow, we haven't talked much about it, are doing it authentically the way most people hunt. Not many outfitters hunting mostly public land, trying to do it on your own, and trying to tell more of a story, not just, I'm here to hunt, who are you, why do we care sort of thing. And it developed, and I thought if we made it 3 years, we probably would be doing okay. And here we are, we're airing season 7 now and start filming season 8. So having a ball, it hasn't affected my passion. It is a job. To get it done and done right, you've got to put the time in and spend more time in the field than you might other when you just kill something to make the episode. But, I'm loving it from the hunting and the storytelling perspective, but my, I guess, biggest enjoyment of it is the industry and the people I've met through it. I mean, we're all hunters because we have that common bond. And like most things, by and large, it's 90% of really great, honest, down-to-earth people. And trade shows, part of coming up here, talking with Jason last night was just the culture here of being such an outdoor culture, which I'm missing in Denver. You can't talk to people in Denver like you can here. And so it's developed that way, and I can do the show from anywhere. That does not pay the bills wholeheartedly. When I did leave the bank, I wasn't got in the car wash business, which is what actually provided, income and mortgage and put food on the table. And with this move that's coming up, I've divested of all that. And what I'll get involved in here, I don't know. There'll have to be a transition. We're moving August 27th. The season starts right after that. My wife's fully aware of that. So it'll be unload the boxes and hang a few pictures and then figure out where I'm going to go.
I tell you what, it's a headache. I did the same thing last year. It was like moving plus season plus all the other obligations going on. Oh, man. I don't envy you.
No. And you did it too. I mean, the times I've moved have been within Colorado. And so it boils down to license plate, driver's license, health insurance, everything else just transferred within the state and covered it. And so, I mean, flying up here, I started a 3-ring binder of the stuff that we got to do before we leave to be here.
Yeah.
And it's daunting. But, you just muddle through it.
Yeah, it's tough. One of the mistakes I made is when I moved, I didn't get, I didn't get my license, my driver's license until like 20 days after, which put me after the draw because Montana goes off your driver's license. Not when you move here. Okay. Goes off your driver's license. So the first thing you should do is get your driver's license here just because it'll affect, I guess it depends on when you actually get here, but it's got to be 90 days before the application. So next year when you apply as a resident.
It'd be a lot nicer to spend whatever it is for the sportsman tag than $900 for the elk tag.
Yeah. No, and that's the cool part about Montana. We were talking about like so many tags here, just over the counter. Really, is like how much you can do. It's funny because I have kind of been big into applications and draws and all that good stuff. Just from living in Oregon, you'd only get a decent tag every 3 to 5 years, and so now you come to Montana and you're like stacked full of more tags than you have time for. And it's like, oh, well, now I don't really have to worry as much about the application. It changes the strategy a little bit.
Sure. Right. Yeah. No, it's, I'm looking forward to it. It's a big change, leaving family, born and raised there, but my wife and I are so thrilled with the opportunity and just.
What was the decision to finally that pushed you guys over the edge?
You know what? It's funny you asked that because people back in Colorado are looking for some conspiracy thing. Here's a resident of Colorado, born and raised, has family ties. I play a lot of golf. That's a big hobby of mine. So this golf community, and they're just looking for something like, what is it that made you move? And there isn't anything, but I think over the last couple of years, I told you we looked at some areas when my daughter was looking for school up here, and I sort of threw it out there. But in that year and a half following, my wife's brother passed away, and then her mother passed away from cancer. And that was sort of, I guess, the impetus to say, our talking about it really drove us to do it, that life's too short. Follow your dreams. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you can't ever wait for that perfect time. If you waited for this to happen or that to happen, it's kind of like getting married and kids, right? There's no perfect time. And that was, I think, her moment to say, let's just take advantage of this. I mean, we're still young enough. God, we're empty nesters and we're under 50, and let's just go follow our dream.
Yeah. You can always go back.
Absolutely.
And I think that's very true. I think a lot of people look at it as moving even across the state as like this forever thing. And when you really look at it, you say, okay, and that's one of the decisions that helped us kind of decide, hey, are we going to do this? Was, well, let's do it for 5 years. And when you put an end cap on it, it doesn't seem like such a big decision. It's more of a trial run. So you say, okay, well, let's test it out. If in 5 years we don't like it, let's move back.
Yeah.
Have you ever met anyone that moved back from Montana? No. So obviously, never in my entire life met someone, I moved to Montana, didn't like it, moved back.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be an odd breed. You wouldn't consider moving to Montana in the first place if you weren't going to fall in love with it.
Yeah. So elk hunting wise, I mean, are you Colorado, great hunting for the most part, probably a little bit packed. I mean, there's still good honey holes throughout Colorado. Yep.
But are you excited about the elk hunting opportunities?
I am. I've always loved coming up here. As we talked a little bit beforehand, my experience elk hunting in Montana has been the Missouri breaks and then a eastern Montana tag last year, a little more limited. But Colorado has obviously the largest elk population of any state, brings a lot more people in. But other than some units, the state manages for quantity rather than quality. Mm-hmm. So there's elk everywhere. The hunting hole I've hunted in since a kid, which my dad hunted in for years before that, has gotten better and better. It used to have more access. People could drive into that area. It's not a wilderness area, but they made it a wilderness study area and closed a lot of that. So it's horse and foot traffic only. And the numbers have gotten better and the quality's gotten better. But, a 330 bull in there is a big bull. But it's, you do run into a few more people. That's another reason I like archery hunting so much more, because the sea of orange gets pretty bad in some of those areas. And it's just not nearly as enjoyable.
That's crazy you hunted the same area for that many years. It seems like a lot of the areas that I've ever had tend to flow. Like they'll ebb and flow. It'll be good for a while and then, kind of either gets hunted out or someone else finds it. And it seems like all areas, we were talking about this, a friend and I were talking about Montana areas. It's like, what makes an area you find a hunting hole? Because a lot of times, someone will hunt it and it gets kind of hunted out. And so they leave and then no one's in there for a couple of years. And then you find it or whatever it may be. And it's weird to think about, like, how does an area, because there's really nowhere that's untouched. It's not like there's some hole that no one's hunted. So there's a system of circumstances that require that to make that happen. So like it's got to be someone moved out of there, or maybe they stopped hunting or such and such. So it's like, if you guys have hunted the same area, that's pretty impressive.
And the learning curve is really low. You don't need to do a whole lot of scouting ahead of time because you know the areas. And I have seen that, though, where somebody maybe has success, went in on their own. The next year there's a few other people in there. Our archery season's about 4 weeks long. And so, depends. And there's a muzzleloader season within that, which that week is kind of the peak of the rut, bugling activity and everything, but there's more people in there. But it has gotten better. There was one year where I'm not sure what happened. If somebody had gone in there hearing great stories, they'd never go back there. I mean, we just weren't into elk. It's not a migratory deal, so we weren't waiting on the migration too early or too late. I don't know what happened, but that was the only year since, and I didn't hunt it all the time from a kid. There were a couple of years that we didn't, but from 2003 till recently, 15 years I've been in there, and I just, you know where the elk are. And
yeah. How much has it changed in 15 years?
I would have to say very little.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good spot then.
I've bumped into people that I never thought I'd see somebody in there, and I ran into one guy from Chicago twice. I knew it was him because all he did was his hoochie mama in the bottom of the same basin, and he always had his horses from wherever he came. But other than that, it's been pretty consistent other than that 1 year.
I always find it fascinating. Last year I was hunting an area. It was a new area, and I had ran into some old timer and just started chatting him up. And he had hunted there 20-some years. And it's funny because he's, telling me spots where there's always elk here, there's always elk there, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny, those elk are repetitious. And even if you get high pressure, maybe they bounce to somewhere else, it's like over time, you always keep that catalog of where those old timers tell you elk were or weren't. Because they'll be back. They're always like back in the same areas, doing the same things.
Well, it's tough. I mean, it's the old saying, "Don't leave elk to find elk." So I mean, if I have a good experience, and I'm not killing elk every year, but you're in elk, you're bugling, it's a great experience. Why would I drive into a totally different area and learn it? I drew Unit 76, a limited deal in Colorado, and had to learn all that over and scout and do that type of thing. And my buddy drew Unit 61, so I've hunted a few other areas. But when people reach out asking me I'd love to elk hunt. I know Colorado's got a lot of elk and a lot of public land. Where do I go? I'm like, well, I'm not going to put them in my unit or that narrow of a gap. I'm like, I haven't hunted 14 units in the state to know, so I just kind of go off of. And not giving away friends' hunting holes either, because I don't know them, but I'm not going to tell them to go to a certain spot and that area. I'm just telling here's some over-the-counter areas, and there's elk everywhere. The farther back you go, the better. Just do your research like we all do.
Yeah, but now you see the juxtaposition of being new to a state and being like, I'm not looking for, I just want to know what mountain range.
That's right. That's right. Even direction on a compass, go north, you know? You're all of a sudden become that. You don't want to be that guy, but you are that guy.
So Colorado seasons, what's the dates usually? Is it the whole month of August or
pretty
September?
Much is. It's the last Saturday in August through the last Sunday in September.
God, that's a pretty liberal season as well.
The one thing that I'm really looking forward to in Montana, and I know a couple other states have it, but in Colorado, if you have an archery tag, it's only good for archery season. You know, you can't roll it into rifle season. You can't hunt with a muzzle loader. You're overlapping with those hunters, but it's nice if you hunt the whole time and be able to roll it into a rifle tag if you want to. Yeah,
no, it's super handy. The upside to that is that like this year I didn't fill it. And I could have probably filled my bow tag the last day, but I knew I had the rifle. So it was like, as far as filling freezers goes, you know, you always have that fallback. So you can really be picky in bow season and have a great experience and try to kill something big and spend more days in the field. And that's kind of like, you know, why I hold on to my tags. Like, shoot something to make me go home. So might as well stay out here.
It's a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're not hunting anymore.
Yeah. So with that early start in Colorado, you spend much time hunting that early, or do you hunt more late time?
My favorite time is the third week, but I will go in early as well. And sometimes, of course, with the show, depending on what other states and other tags, you kind of have to figure it out. And maybe, like last year, I drew the 900 tag, and I had an Alaska moose hunt that was a finite time. I had to be there up, I don't remember what it was, the 5th through the whatever of September. I also had won a Utah elk tag last year at the Western Hunting Expo. So that was even earlier. So sometimes it's a scheduling thing, but I will go in early. It's a much different hunt, you know. They're not bugling a whole lot. It's a lot longer setups, trying to call them in, usually coming in silent, doing that type of thing. But that's sort of the challenge of it.
Yeah. You know, everyone wants to talk and how to bugle in bulls and how to hunt that third week of September when everything's perfect and screaming and coming right in. But I think, like, if you're going to hunt, especially in your circumstance where you got to hunt throughout the season, and you're hunting third week, you're hunting first week, you're hunting all through the season, they capture it all. It's pretty interesting to see, you know, tactics change. Things are hard first week of season. And if you want to hunt that first week of season because you have other hunts, then you just have to adapt, right?
Yep.
What advice do you have for hunting that opening week of season?
Well, until the Utah hunt last year, and of course that's a limited area, and as early as it was, I thought I'd be just spot and stalking, maybe hunting water holes, watching something bed, do that type of thing. But they were active. I mean, I killed my bull on the 5th day, and I had 4 bulls within 40 yards that we called in. So I'd consider that an oddity. But usually it's, you know, being there really early, having one bugle, not letting them know you're there, trying to get in on them. And then if that shuts down, it's just a lot of, the way I do it is just a bunch of blind setups and a lot more cow talk and small bull squeals and stuff, and giving it 45 minutes of a setup because they're not hot, but they're going to come in curious and usually silent. Yeah,
it seems to be one of the biggest mistakes people make early season is almost being too ambitious, or I guess impatient, and not setting up long enough. You could set up for an hour and it could take that long.
Yep.
Tell us the hunt, your Utah hunt. What was the story behind that?
Well, have you been to Western Hunting Expo?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just applied for every archery bull tag in the unit and won the South Cache unit. So all of a sudden, like, talk about being a newbie, I wasn't even able to set boots on the ground. But it's a pretty cool story because I reached out to some people I knew in Salt Lake, and as much as people were talking about not wanting to share their hunting holes, when you have a limited tag, people come out of the woodwork wanting to help you because they want to be a part of it. They know the area. They can't hunt it for 5 more years or something. So I actually had 3 or 4 people willing to help, and then that's kind of a problem because you're like, I can't work with all of them. And I just worked with a guy, James Carlson, who was unbelievably generous, you know, met us when we went in there, helped us sort of set up camp, took me scouting around. He lived outside Salt Lake, so he had to go back to work, and then came back on the weekend and took me to a new area, and that helped because they called a little bit back behind. But the first afternoon, I had a nice 6-point at, I never saw any cows, but he wasn't coming in, but he was vocal the whole time, was able to get in within 30 yards. And finally, the day that I actually killed it was, we worked the herd in the morning, and one cow sort of winded us. The wind was swirling, and we didn't push him, so we just went and took the old nap and had lunch in the woods. And about 3 o'clock, I heard a bugle, and I figured it was the same herd. We just started working towards them. And next thing you know, the herd was working towards us as I was working towards them, and was just in the middle of it. And I'd never heard cow talk like that. I mean, they were just chirping, talking, nuts. One cow moved to where the wind was quartering, and she took about 6 or 8 cows with her. Immediately, the bull bugled, wondering what had happened, what busted some of his harem. And so I just fired back with a bugle right off the bat, and he came right in.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a really cool, and I didn't expect that early.
No kidding. I mean, here I'm saying like that never happens, but I guess it just depends on if there's a cow in heat or whatnot.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And 2 years ago we came in Montana. I was just kind of on a scout trip, just pipe off a bugle, see what's there. Bull screams and it's coming. Like it was coming. And by himself, it was just coming up the mountain too. And I was like, that is odd behavior for September 1st or 2nd, whenever it was. Yeah. But every once in a while you find a bull that's just super hot. And
right time,
generally
right bull.
Speaking, it's like you got an early cow, a cow that comes in heat early, a young cow or something like that. Yeah, it can be crazy.
I don't know. I just feel you have your arsenal of calls and methods and everything, and you get in there and see what they're behaving like.
Yeah.
Because there's generalities, but you get the right bull at the right time, it can change.
Well, and that's the thing. Everyone talks about what's the best week in September. It's every week, because I mean, you can say, yeah, third week probably has more cows in heat, but also you consider that hunting pressure is going to double or triple. Like first week can be a great week, especially if you get cows in heat and stuff like that.
I know one guy who said he loves to hunt that earlier part if you're hunting for a big herd bull, because later in the season they're haremed up and they are tough to pull away. You got all the satellites and everything, so yeah, more bugling activity. It's a fun hunt. You're hearing elk, seeing elk, but to kill the big bull is a lot tougher than it might be in the first week of September. Yeah,
we hunted a couple years ago. I think it was probably the 10th, and it was just that time frame where those big bulls start to come looking for cows, and you can still cow call in. I mean, it doesn't work in highly populated areas, but you get remote enough and you can still cow call in a giant bull that's just starting to look for cows, trying to round up a harem, see what's going on, and right place, right time, and it works out that way.
My dad and I had an experience. I had already killed a bull with my muzzleloader. I still had a deer tag, so we were hunting, and this was muzzleloader season, so the third week, sort of the prime time, and working this ridge, and I looked up and I saw antler tips moving through the tall grass. So I kind of worked my way over and called my dad, and turns out it was an elk. So I was just sort of playing with him, made a few cow calls, hoping to get him in. You saw his head turn, but he didn't stand up or do anything. And this was from within 100 yards. Threw a bugle, he just kind of turned, didn't do anything. I got up to, and then I started thinking, well, maybe he's injured. I mean, we would move within 50 yards, and then about 30 yards, he's still bedded. So I'm thinking maybe he's, hurt, wounded, whatever. I'd already done all this that normally a bull would stand up and come curious. I got 17 yards away from that thing, and he turned and looked, saw us, and bolted. I'm like, well, he's not hurt. And it was just odd. Even my dad, as a biologist, was like, that's strange. Well, some of those big bulls wait and wait and wait, and finally figured more cows are in heat. So he hadn't haremed up. He wasn't interested in anything. And, that old little bull, big bull up on the ridge looking down, and the little bull says, let's go get one of those cows. He goes, nah, let's walk down and get them all. They just wait for the time. And that was just an eye-opening thing for me, because you just expected everything that could hear you during that time to come running in. And
just not the case. I remember years ago, we had seen this herd, and it was across the canyon up on the other side. So not much you can do about it, but we'd sit there and watch for a little bit, see where they're going to go. And we're watching, and this bull's screaming his head off, and it's a decent bull. It's good 6, and he's just screaming his head off, running cows around and whatnot. And pretty soon you pick out this bull that's probably 40 inches bigger than him. Really good bull. It's like 320 bull, and he's just down there feeding. I could care less.
No kidding.
Like, didn't even, and that was early September. I was like, wow, what's going on? He didn't care. Just feeding away. I don't know what his deal was. Like I said, odd behavior.
Yep.
But I've had bulls that would only come in like at night, and I specifically remember one time there was like cows and bulls screaming, and right at dark I found this herd going nuts, and this big growler bull's down there, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be there right at daylight. And I get down there at daylight, and there's like a 5-point screaming, chasing the cows around his herd bull. And there's no other bull in sight.
No kidding.
And I think the other bull just taking off. Like, wasn't worried about it.
Just left it for the young guy.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. The last year we did the same thing early season. There was a lot of, a lot of little bulls with the cows. And it was hot. It was real hot. Mm-hmm. And I think that changes a little bit because they were just in the timber, bedded up, and, there was bulls with them. You call them herd bulls, but it was not the herd bulls that were going to be there in 2 weeks. And so that was like, we were just picking through lots of, smaller bulls. And big bulls just hadn't showed up yet, and then pretty soon, late September, they'll start coming out of the, timber or out of the dark canyons, wherever they're at. Yeah.
Wonder what the trigger is, because, there have been cows in heat for a while, and maybe that's their one girlfriend that finally came in heat that pulls them out. Who knows? I don't know. But that's what makes it so exciting is just, like you said, every day in September is a good time to be out there because you never know when it's going to turn on. You could kill the first day and blessing and a curse, you're not hunting anymore. You could hunt all year, but you just never know what's going to happen.
You ever killed on opening day?
Not on opening day, but the first day of my hunt.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Still have not gotten to do that.
In fact, funny story, it was 2009, the first year I hunted in the breaks, and driving from Denver, it took us, my buddy Chris, he'd hunted the year before in that area, and it took us 14 hours to get up, drive up, set up camp, started glassing, we found some bulls that afternoon. This was in bald-ass prairie. I mean, we weren't even in the trees. Saw a herd. There were 4 other bulls that were kind of bachelored up. This is first week of October. And killed them within about 3 hours. And it's like, now we got a 15-hour drive back, after doing all this. We spent more time driving than we did hunting. But that, that never happens. And you hunt all season and never get a chance. So sometimes it's, planets do align and it works out all right.
With the whole filming thing, do you ever get the opportunity to pass stuff up, or do you kind of try to just shoot whatever you can? And
I mean, it's the nice thing is I'm hunting the way I normally hunt. That I don't consider myself a trophy hunter, and I've had some limited areas. But if I like them, I'm going to take the chance. It's very seldom where I'm like, nah, we'll hold out for something. Whitetail, yes, because you're sitting in a stand and you kind of know what's around. But as far as deer, elk go, looking here, I wouldn't hesitate to shoot anything you got hanging on the wall right here. And there may be something bigger, and I know the adage, you can't shoot the big stuff if you shoot the medium or small stuff, but
that's always the trouble I've found with like filming is, first off, I don't want to make it a job. I don't want to put that pressure on it, because it does add pressure. Just the limited filming I have done, it's like, man, it's a lot of pressure. But then having to shoot, you feel obligated to get it on film, do all these things. It changes a little bit. I guess that's my biggest concern with trying to film stuff, is changing the aspect of hunting.
I think if I drew which I won't ever do because I burned all my points in 76 in Colorado several years ago, winning a tag, maybe so. But if I drew Unit 2 or 201 in Colorado and had 19 points that I'd invested in it and already had, good solid bulls on the wall, then you might pass on things for that true giant. Mm-hmm. Haven't been fortunate enough that way, hunting mostly public areas, or maybe it's private, but a lease or something, but not to where there's 400-inch bulls running around there.
Yeah.
I don't pass very often, but maybe someday. My wife told me when we started this deal, I'll just backtrack because you said something pretty important, that you don't want it. You hear, don't turn your hobby into a job, because then you don't enjoy it anymore. But it also heard, if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like you're working. And
so which axiom is true?
Well, I'm loving what I'm doing, and turned sort of my hobby into my job, if you will. It hasn't affected it much. There are times when you're like, God, I don't have enough episodes in the can this year, and I know it's a problem to say I got to set some hunts up or figure something out in the spring, or maybe go to Texas and do something. Where if you didn't have the show, you're like, I've had a great season. I don't need to hunt anymore. I don't need to plan another trip. That's probably the one downside that I say I've seen, to where, I know I need to, because I've got an obligation to have X number of episodes. But my wife looked at me as we started it, and the first year we filmed in that hunting hole I have in Colorado, I told you had been consistent so long. I'm like, this is going to be great. We may not kill something, but we're going to have encounters and bugling activity. Crickets. And came back home, and my wife's like, you've known you a long time. You've got this primal need to be in the woods, like a lot of us do, and hopefully our spouses or soon-to-be spouses appreciate that. She said, if the pressure to kill something because you're worried about an episode changes that, she goes, don't do it anymore. She goes, I'd support you. You don't want to lose that passion that you have because you feel the pressure for that. And so far it hasn't. Yeah, there's little periods here and there where you just have a horrible hunt. You're like, spent all this money, both mine and on a videographer and stuff, and there's nothing you can make out of it. But, that's hunting. I'm not hiring an outfitter going on something where it's a quote unquote guaranteed opportunity hunt. It's a crapshoot.
Is that tough? Is there a lot of stress that weighs in on that?
Sometimes. Yeah.
It's tough. That's what I don't want. I guess, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
Still hunting, doing all that. Whether the show's around, I mean, everybody says, are you going to keep doing the show? Will you do it in Montana? Honestly, every year is a decision at that time between sponsors and the network, what the TV ratings are doing, how your sponsors are. The industry, you're at all these shows, you hear marketing budgets getting cut and they're not doing this and things going more digital, but nobody's got the platform. So long-winded answer, I guess I haven't looked that far out. On one hand, it would be cool if Pure Hunting was still going because that would be nearly a 20-year run. And if you look at the popular shows now that have been around, like Drury, Shockey, Bone Collector, potentially The Crush, I bet you they never thought they'd be around that long. And how long will they continue? I don't know. I'm not going to put a timeline on it. I bet you Pure Hunting another couple of years. And as long as I'm still enjoying it and I'm able to make some money doing it, send me on have the opportunity to go on some of these hunts, I'll do it. Otherwise, it'll just become, again, a personal passion with a lot of the friends and stuff that I met in the industry. And hopefully still living in Montana. And who knows what money-making opportunities will come about up here. I'm kind of leaving that open. How has
your look on hunting changed in the last 10 years?
That's a very good question. I guess
I'll give you a kind of an example. I would say that, for me, my 22-year-old self, 21-year-old self to now, I definitely see a big change going from just being as remote, hardcore, solo, like die hard, got to kill the biggest thing on the mountain, to now focusing more on like, man, I really want to do some hunts with my buddies. I want to go to new areas. Like like all those things change and you watch the progression. And I look at hunters, I got a lot of mentors that are in their 70s and you can't help but expect that you'll be in a similar position. And how does that weigh? So like, a lot of my older buddies, older mentors, they not nearly as interested in big bulls and, they like hunting their old hunts and they like going to new ones. And so like, he's like, that's kind of how the progression of my hunting has changed. And so I'm kind of curious how that's changed for you, but also within filming, like how has it changed? How has that initiated change?
It's, one of the things that's initiated is when I have an opportunity for a hunt. I mean, my Colorado elk hunt, if I keep going back, it's not going to change that at all. I'm in it for the experience. And hopefully take some buddies with me. That's always been one of my biggest enjoyments. I do. It's an oxymoron to say a solo hunt because you got a camera guy, right? Even my mom to this day is like, "Are you going by yourself?" I'm like, "Well, yes, but I've got somebody with me." So she's always going to be a mom worried about being by yourself. I still enjoy the bivvy hunt, the backpack hunt, getting back there, but the filming side of things, when a new opportunity comes about, it's like, does it fit the DNA of what I'm trying to do for Pure Hunting? I'm not, Randy Newberg, only do it yourself, public land. If I get an opportunity to hunt private, I'm not paying big dollars to go with an outfitter, but if there's a lease opportunity or something, I'll take advantage of it. I don't go in the woods very often without a videographer just because there's an opportunity to capture something. The times that I have been more like on a waterfowl or upland hunt, it sure is nice, I'll be honest, to do it without a camera person, to have to re-say something or make sure you capture this or do whatever. Just do it the way you used to. So there is a bit of enjoyment when there's not a camera around. But I've been invited on some things that would be a cool hunt, but it doesn't fit what I'm trying to do or portray. And I've always tried to be really authentic with that. Yeah. And I guess I've never been a trophy hunter. I've been fortunate to kill some big animals, but it's not like that's what I set out to do. Yeah. And with my daughter's more of an outdoors person than my son is, and getting her outdoors, especially now with her being in school here and me being up here, I'd like to do a little bit more with that and, pass it on to the next generation. And that's kind of where that enjoyment is. It's not about, I don't know, like you said, remote, solo, do it, and sort of the, badass. And one thing that I think has affected things is social media. It's almost like if you aren't posting something that you've killed, all of a sudden you're a crappy hunter, and it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not what this should all be about. It should be about the hunting heritage and enjoying it, whether it's public land, private land, with buddies or on your own. And how much I'd rather take 2 trips out now than you're trying to throw everything on your back. And, it's hunt smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
So.
And enjoy it. I think there's always that allure with social media, industry stuff, like whatever it is, like to be successful and to feel like, not a letdown, but to feel like you're not worthy if you don't kill something. And like, I've always guarded that to where I remember when I first started the podcast, like I think the first year, it was probably late second year or something like that. I didn't kill an elk. And the first year I hadn't killed an elk in a number of years. And I was like, man, like what happened? But I from then on have basically made it a point that like, I don't want that to ever impede. Like if I'm not successful, fine. Like that's a part of it. There's plenty of world-renowned hunters that are not successful. And I don't know that, like, I think too many people hinge success as in on a kill or whatever it may be. And there's just so many other aspects to it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember when my kids were younger, I did a lot more waterfowl and upland hunting just because you could escape for a morning and do something and not plan a 2 or 3 or a week-long deal. Yeah. That was tough. But, I'd come home from a duck hunt. My wife's like, well, how was it? I'm like, oh, it was awesome. She goes, well, how many did you get? I'm like, I didn't get one. It was early season. They weren't flying, whatever. But taking it all in, I mean, the marsh is coming alive. You're seeing tons of other wildlife. And, you're watching the sunrise. It's another day out in the woods. And
do you ever find yourself taking that for granted, though?
Yeah. You'd certainly try not to. And so sometimes it takes somebody like my wife who is a non-hunter, respects it, appreciates everything, just doesn't do it, to sometimes put that in perspective so you don't take it for granted. No,
that's so true. I know my fiance and I went just run a quick scout trip, and she, blown away by the country. Like, this is so amazing. And we were hiking. I was thinking, man, I don't know if it's because I spent so much time in cool places. I think I take it for granted. Like it's just, you spend so much time in the woods. I really want to focus on not taking that for granted, like being in the moment, be here now. Like that's something you hear all the time and it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But I remember specifically a point last September and it was snowing sideways, bulls were screaming and you could only see like 60 yards and wolves started howling across the river. Wow. And I was like, be here now. Like I'm mid-stalk, like just moving on a bugle, like not, this bull's kind of moving. So I'm just mid-dogging a bull. And I'm like, man, this is one of those moments. Soak it in. Just stop for a second. Because it doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen every year even. Right. It's like that whole be here now. I like that. That's perfect. Yeah. And one thing, my dad, he's still around. He's 75. It's hard to watch your parents get older. I owe my whole hunting passion, conservation ethic, and everything to him. That one thing that is important, getting my kids out there, but also spending a lot of time with my dad. Yeah. I mean, I hope he's 80, early 80s and still wanting to do that. I've seen him slow down. He's not as into hunting elk as hard as he was. I mean, here was sort of my hero, and going, and even the last hunt we did together up there, it was, I'm going to take the morning off. I think he maybe overdid it the next day, and he's enjoying it for the moment. I'm going to be camp bitch for the day, and he loves it. He's going to cook and clean, and maybe he'll fish for the morning or something like that and join me in the afternoon. And that was a good eye-opener to appreciate you don't have to go hard all the time. Enjoy it. If you take a morning off to go do something that is still important to you, go do it. Yeah. But I really want to spend, he lives in Kansas, so it's probably not going to be as much elk hunting, but some upland, waterfowl. Always try to get together, maybe deer hunting in Kansas. But that's something that I don't want to look back and say, I wish I had spent one more day in the field with him. No, that's very, very important. And taking advantage of those, because you only got, it's a scary thought to think you only have so many more hunts. Yep. With that individual or that person.
And that's kind of coming circle again. The one thing that I've really enjoyed from the filming perspective is, I didn't get into this I guess I don't know why I got into it, sort of fell into it and it happened and I really enjoyed it. But let's just say 20 years from now, I don't think he'll live to be 95. If he does, that's great. But I will always have a video of some of the hunts that we've been on. He's been on 6 to 8 episodes of Pure Hunting, and I get a lot of feedback because people are like, God, my dad brought me up, and he's not around anymore. And it's so neat to see that. I'll always have that. And so no matter whatever happens, 10 years from now, Pure Hunting's not around, I've got DVDs or everything's digital to go back and, and show my grandkids somewhere down the road, this is your great-grandfather who you never got to know, and actually see him, which I don't think a lot of people other than a still photo, but getting to see him on video and following their passion's a pretty cool deal.
And not only that, like if there was ever anything that made me want to film, it would be that, in that capacity of, the amount of information that I know about, say, my grandpa is very vast. You hear some stories from your parents and things like that. Your grandkids are going to be able to watch 20 seasons of Pure Hunting and be like, oh, wow, this is what grandpa did. Right. That's crazy. This whole world we live in where like everything gets passed down. I mean, how much did you know about your grandpa? Probably little,
Yeah.
Like,
and one generation stories. Above that, nothing.
Yeah. And now it's like gets passed on.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So that'll be cool. We did do a waterfowl hunt with my dad, my son, and me in Nebraska, and that was kind of cool to have 3 generations there, and just some of probably the stuff that didn't make the episode or funny or, whatever, but, we'll probably never review the raw footage again, but that's something that to me is just priceless.
That is. One of the questions I always ask guests is if you could give your 20-year-old self, 25-year-old self advice, what would it
be? Follow your passion, be true to yourself, and, I guess that would be the 2 things.
Stick with it.
Yep. Stick with it. If you really believe in it, and, to your point when we talked about moving here, I have 2 sort of philosophies. One, you can only make the best decision with the information you have at the time. Otherwise, you'll never make a decision. And no decision is permanent. Take a chance. Follow your passion. If it doesn't work, do something else. But give it enough time and stick with it to really try to see it through. I think everybody's looking for instant gratification. And things take a long time.
Yeah.
One of the examples I've given is Cam Hanes. Everybody's looked at him. Look, he's blown up in the last 3 years, period. But I think a lot of people think he just started this 3 years ago. And I read his book in 2006, and he was working for Eastman's in the early 2000s. The guy's been doing it and being consistent. Let's just call it 18 years.
Yeah.
And it just has really blown up in the last, 3 or 4 years. And I think there's a lot of people who just think all I have to do is do this and post a few things on Instagram and I'm going to have 500,000 followers and sponsors falling all over me. And it's like, no. He's busted his butt for a lot of years, kept his 9-to-5 gig, done it on the side, and it paid dividends. So
years. That's the problem is I think so many people want instant gratification. No one wants to work for anything. And it's not even kids today. It's everyone. Everyone wants instant gratification. And you'll try something and it doesn't work out and then they give up on it. And it's like, it takes a long time to build.
It does. It does.
That's why I always say, if you're going into something, make sure it's something you're willing to put 10 years into to be successful. So everyone starts a new venture, they start a new business, and like a year into it, they give up. It didn't work out. Well, I hate to break the news to you. Like it takes 10x longer than you think.
Yep.
It takes a long time to build these things. And that's why pick something. That's where it comes back to. If you want to build something within, say, the hunting industry. I know a lot of kids want to be in the hunting industry. It's like, if you choose your passion, you're going to put more effort into it. You're going to be willing to put the effort into it because you enjoy it, because it's a passion, because it's what you want to do, and all these things. And that's how you grow it slowly. But it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
Like that.
No, most things I've heard, depending on the business, that it's, there's sort of that 3-year hump. You've got to really put your time into it to where you've built some credibility, you've got some consistency.
Yeah.
Because if you only give it a year, take off, no. And if you're not putting your full time in, people will see that and you'll hit that 3-year mark and won't get where you think you ought to get. So if you're doing it, like I said, when I did the stuff for Orion, I never got involved with sponsors or anything. So that was all new. And TrueSight, we came up with, of course, you're a little biased, but I thought it was a really good trailer. We had no episodes in the can. You're showing sponsors and you think that, oh yeah, stroke you a check and you're off and running. That's a really cool trailer. Can you put a whole episode together? Can you put a whole season together? And then are you going to be around for a couple of years? Because if we're going to support somebody, we want to have it, long term, so we get some benefit. That was really eye opening, and I don't have all the answers. I'm a pretty modest guy, but you see some of these young people run around these trade shows, with their sizzle, and I look back and go, holy crap, they got a huge uphill climb. And I, hope they know that and put the time in, because they're probably walking around with the same blinders I had on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, even going back to this podcast, it was like, I see kids, and I've helped a lot of people get started with their podcasts and things like that. I didn't get paid for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I worked my face off for 2 years and didn't even think about getting paid. And then, still work your face off to get to get to where it is. And, you see people pop up and they want to get paid. So many people are trying to create a show now, and it's like they want to get paid before the show. Like, mm-hmm. Here's my idea for a show. Ideas are nothing. Ideas are nothing. Anybody can have an idea. It's execution. I mean, you can have an idea for a show. That's great. But unless it's going to be around for a number of years, why would I invest my money in it?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so when you flip it and say, why would I invest in myself? What makes someone else invest in me? Gives you perspective.
That's a great analogy. I don't think, to your point, everybody wants instant gratification. I don't think a lot of people are introspective enough to flip the tables and say, mm-hmm. if I was being approached by me, would I support me?
Yeah. Would you give me $100,000? No.
Right. Maybe after 2 years and you've got so many episodes under your belt and everything. Yeah. And the thing that I've seen with podcasts is that, they're popping up all over the place, but I've also seen a lot come and go that I'd ask you is putting out fresh content one of the most difficult things? Because if you don't, your subscribers, you're all of a sudden irrelevant. They'll go someplace else. You need to keep putting it out there.
Absolutely. And this is, I see a lot of these podcasts pop up, and, I think the same way you're saying that, like, hey, give it 2 years. Mm-hmm. I say, let me see someone hit 50 episodes, because you put 50 episodes out, now you have a real understanding of what the workload is. And you probably got a lot of rejection in the first 50 episodes. And so that tells me, how does that person handle rejection? How does that person handle workload? How does that person, produce stuff on time in a timely manner? Mm-hmm. And so those are the things that are going to be tough. And then you work through those processes. And that's the same thing like when people used to tell you, hey, produce a show for 2 years and then we'll talk.
Right.
It's because they want to see the work ethic. They want to see the jockey, not the horse.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, congrats on the big move. Yeah. And, a lot coming up. I'll be excited to see how it goes.
So will we.
Yeah. Big plans this year?
I don't have anything really hot. I'll tell you the hunt that right now, other than learning this area and stuff, I drew a third season rifle mule deer tag in Colorado. And I'm really anxious to get back there because 2 years ago, I missed an absolute giant. Last year, I killed a good buck. It was second season, but that is more of a migratory thing kicking off on the rut. That's probably the best tag and the one that I'm most looking forward to. Anytime you can go back to a spot, you know. Yeah. Although now I have to drive 13 hours to get there versus 3. So
but you know the spot. You got a little bit of history with it, so scouting's probably not as big a deal. It's a migratory hunt, so.
Right.
That'll be cool.
How about you?
I got a busy year.
Yeah.
I should probably hire a camera guy because I think I got 9 tags or something like that.
Wow. What other states?
Wyoming, Montana, and Oregon. So
awesome.
Just staying around here. I'll probably focus a little bit heavier on the 2 elk tags, personally. Couple mule deer tags, but if I get to them. Great. Late
Perfect.
Season.
Nice problem to have.
Yeah. So I don't know. Lots of stuff to do. Just a busy year. It's funny. I always joke that I started a podcast and now I don't get to hunt anymore. Mm-hmm. The hard part is like creating that content and managing all of that other situation and while trying to be gone and do other things. So last year was brutal with the move. Like I don't want to do that again.
No.
So
well, at least you're here and relatively settled.
Relatively settled. We got a pretty good team this year. So I think it'll be a good year. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. And I'm looking forward to being up here and spending a little time and getting to know you a little bit better. So
yeah, likewise. Well, welcome to town.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.
Today's episode brought to you by onX Maps. onX is a must-have tool for all of you serious hunters. With season just around the corner, I am constantly using my onX to e-scout and learn everything I can about my upcoming hunts. onX Maps works across all of my devices, so I can scout areas, mark locations on my desktop, and then automatically they appear on my phone when I'm in the field using my smartphone as a GPS. onX even works on your phone if you don't have service or it's in airplane mode. I just save all the maps that I am going to need and before I head into the backcountry or go out of service, and my onX app will show me right where I am and show me all of my waypoints from e-scouting and all of my marked locations. onX is available in all 50 states, and I can't speak highly enough about this system. It is truly a must-have for me, and I think anyone hunting out west. Even if you're not worried about the public-private, you're hunting deep in the wilderness, it's still an awesome tool. But if you're anywhere near private land, it is a must-have. Use the promo code TRO, and you'll get 20% off your membership. Go download it today and get familiar with the app before your hunt. Don't download it on your way to your hunt. Get familiar with this because there's so many cool tools that you can learn from it. Go to onxmaps.com. Check it out. This episode brought to you by iSocialBoost. iSocialBoost is an Instagram growth tool that can help you grow your tribe in an organic way. iSocialBoost has been helping me grow the Backcountry Fuel Box Instagram for the last couple of months, and I have been blown away with just almost over 7,000 followers now, and they're helping me convert followers into subscribers. Whether you're a small business or just want to grow your personal following, iSocialBoost can help you get thousands of real followers that actually fit your brand. I've actually been so impressed with them that I'm having them start to grow the podcast Instagram as well, and helping get exposure to the podcast for all those people that maybe don't even know it exists. Check them out. If you want to give them a try, you will not be disappointed. Head over to iSocialBoost.com. Use the promo code TRO and you'll get 80% off your first week. They're so sure that you're going to love it. They're basically giving it to you for free. Go check it out if you want to grow your small business or just grow your personal brand. Instagram is a great place to do it. Check it out. Hey guys, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show and maybe even picked up a few tips along the way. Join us right here every Thursday morning for more interviews and great hunting tips. And be sure to help us out by leaving a review on iTunes. For more information about this show and the rest of our guests, check out the show notes for links and additional resources on our website, www.therichoutdoors.net.